All right. So hello, everybody, to the 6th meeting of the Nixpkgs architecture team. Let's get right into it. I'm recording today on YouTube again, live streaming. Meeting notes this time Robert will take those, but I'm gonna lead the meeting. First of all, just some administration member updates. I'd love for Chris or Kaito to be here. Oh, John, I'm gonna have to mute you, John. Your microphone is very noisy. But yeah, Chris applied to the team about 1.5 weeks ago. He hasn't joined the meeting since then. I'd like to wait for him and hear from him directly as well. That would be nice. But otherwise, from me, I think Chris would be okay to join. I think oh, there he is. Hey, Chris.
Hello.
Yeah, but we have Robert here as well. Yeah, I think let's. So Chris's application, I think he would be very good to the team. He hasn't. He has. Well, he hasn't been in the meetings for the past couple of months due to some reasons, but right, vacation and then sick. But yeah, he has joined a couple of meetings already, the first ones, and I think he would be good in the team. Robert, do you also have some immediate feedback, or would that be also good for you?
Yeah, I think so. I don't really know him personally or what his experience is, but
yeah,
yes.
I know Chris from 2 Week at least, where we are kind of in the same next team there. And I think Chris, to some degree, tries not to be too publicish, like not too publicly announcing himself, which I think is fine. Did I word that correctly, Chris?
That works. Yeah, I don't enjoy being in the public eye too much.
All right, but yeah, as long as you can discuss with the team, I think that should be fine. And you've shown in the past that you have a lot of motivation and currently also time from Tweak to spend some time on this. All right, then let's. Also, I'm going to quickly on Matrix later today probably ask you, Robert, and Tom as well, the other current member. I feel like we should find a better, maybe better time for Tom to join as well. He is barely there in these meetings, or only towards the end. But yeah, I'll ask later. And then John Erickson, just another reminder for kind of officially applying to the team. No hurry, but I think you still probably want to join. All right.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, microphone sounds great, by the way. All right, then I think let's continue to a quick stand-up. Maybe let's have an open round. What does anybody have any updates for something they worked on or want to show since the past week? Personally, I don't have anything. So, all right, fairly quiet. I guess no updates then. I should have more time in the future. The past week was kind of a vacation for me, so kind of busy there. Yeah, all right. Let's come now. There are some recent discussions between Robert and Philip, or Prof. Patch, regarding something about the module system. Can you, Robert? I'm going to take meeting notes real quick for this. Maybe can you talk about this just quickly?
Yeah. So I wrote sort of a basic module system replacement. Not intended to actually replace the module system, but serve as an alternative that's more a better performance, and that would make it suitable for use in the packages for packaging. I'm pretty sure that if we switch to the proper, we'll have a performance impact that's significant.
Your microphone is a bit muffled sometimes. It's a bit hard to understand for me, at least. But as far as I got, thinking about a module replacement with better performance that could be used for packages. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
Minor interjection there. I figure I should point out that Elko asked me a while ago to look into whether the whole module system could be made in a first-class citizen in Nix itself rather than residing in Nix packages. So that might be something that they or we or someone might look into at some point. Just figured I'd point it out.
Right. Yeah, I think this if it touches substantial attribute thing that Ilko did at some point, and I think
Curious typing noises.
I think that my suggestion for an alternative module system is in functionality somewhat close to what Ilko wrote, except it doesn't have documentation yet. But it's a bit simpler than the module system. And my personal opinion on whether this should be integrated is I'm actually somewhat on the fence about it. Is the module system proper? It's really quite complicated and has a lot of features that if you want to replicate all of that in Nix itself, you really blow up the complexity of the Nix language. And that's actually pretty bad for stuff like reproducibility, because once you change the language, there's no going back, basically, unless we want to break compatibility with decades of software history. I think we don't want to lose that unique selling point, basically. So it's worth considering, but I think it should be preceded by a prototype that has all the functionality, so we can see what you can actually achieve with it. And if we're happy about it, we might incorporate similar functionality into Nix. But we have to be very careful about it.
Yeah, if I may second that, to be sort of viciously frank, Elko has one trick, which is get stuff that was previously library code and smash it into built-ins. And if the design's right, that's okay. But as Robert says, it probably won't be quite right. There'll probably be issues with the module system that there's no consensus how to fix. And so the path of release resistance is just make something that's roughly the same or hasn't, been put through its paces, and then we're stuck with it. So it's a really short-term trade-off where maybe we can fix a few architectural solutions in the short term, but the next time we have tech debt and need to change things in response to new problems and new issues, we're completely hosed and there's nothing we can do. Everything's baked in and ossified. So I think it's very important for this team's work and our continued flexibility going forward that either things have to be in libraries, or if things are baked into languages, those languages need to be distinct from Nix itself. Like if Nickel wants to throw in a bunch of new features, that makes me a lot less nervous than whatever interpreter is distributed with Nix and the daemon, and it's kind of the privileged interpreter. So yeah, I think it's very important we make sure that through one way or another we have flexibility to continue to tackle new problems as they will inevitably arise.
Yeah, Ash.
Would it be worthwhile to have like separately from Nixpkgs maybe a sort of standard library for Nix that other projects could import and use?
So kind of like extending the built-ins, you mean, or like Nix library code?
Like as opposed to getting built-ins in the Nix language itself. So sort of like how we have nixpkgs.lib, I guess. But to my understanding, a lot of projects re-implement a lot of stuff that's already in nixpkgs.lib.
I've definitely been in that boat before, where I had extracted or rewrote part of the library, simply because for one reason or another I didn't want to drag in all of Nix packages for a certain thing. There might be some value discussing splitting out most of the pure library stuff from Nix packages, but I think the whole idea of splitting Nix packages in and of itself is somewhere further down the schedule anyway, that for us to discuss.
So, but is the idea you're suggesting, Ash, to have a separate Nix library that would be kind of stable and kind of redesigned in a way, which Nixpkgs currently isn't that well?
Yeah, I think so.
Just for the simple idea of taking the pure library code from Nix packages and splitting it out, I'm in favor of that idea, definitely.
I think
Yeah.
I'm more concerned about fragmentation at this point. I think maybe interesting additions could be made. Like, sure that there's some value in refactoring, but it's not going to change anything fundamental.
I didn't quite get that. There's some value in what?
Oh, in refactoring, but it's limited. Nothing fundamental.
I wonder if a little bit more simply, just to address the issue that Chris had, where he didn't want to pull in all of Nix packages just for the lib. With flakes, can we make lib a separate flake output?
Yes. It would require some juggling around things, but yes.
I think someone automated like a lib that's extracted from Nix packages automatically into some repo. I think in divnix, not sure.
By the way, quickly want to mention that let's use the matrix chat for messages. So we have the history of it. But yeah, I think the idea of right, and I've actually done this before. I've added a new built-in to the Nix language after it's been proven to be useful in Nix packages for a long time. That would be the group by build library function. And yeah, I think if we go that route, kind of stabilize things in Nix packages, make sure they have a good functionality, and kind of make sure that having that as a built-in does improve performance a lot. and that might be simple built-ins. It doesn't have to be like an entire module system, perhaps. It could be split off into individual built-ins that somehow help the module system become faster. I do see that as a possibility.
I'm in favor of having a more modular module system.
Personally, I don't have any specific issues with the way that the module system is, but maybe I just haven't spent enough time writing complicated modules. Yeah, so what are some issues that are we actually trying to address with the module system as it exists right now?
I think it's mainly just, well, two things. I think one of them is speed, which makes it kind of infeasible for if we want to use it for packages, and the other, so speed and kind of, it's not very clean. There are some legacy things which just kind of taint it in some ways. Kind of, if we were to, for example, want the module system as a built-in in Nix, we'd have to clean up those things before that happens. And that's like one obvious or one easy one is just that the kind of API to the module system is kind of pretty poorly specified, with like makeif, the make option, what can types do, what is type merging, things like that. What can the user specify? What is implemented by the library? What by the user? Things like that.
So I'm a little bit confused because before we were talking about the module system being slow as like an architectural thing, not as like this should be a built-in because Nix is too slow. So if we're talking about like making it a built-in instead, I think that like that doesn't solve the architectural issues like with the way that the module system is structured. I mean, it could solve those, but you can also solve those by restructuring the module system in a better way, like some people have already shown demonstrations of. And as I don't remember who pointed out, putting things into built-ins makes them like a language feature. So I think that we should probably focus on architectural changes more than like just getting free speed ups by porting it to C++.
Right. Yeah, that it will also scale much better than, right? Even if we speed it up with C++, that's just a constant speed improvement, but it won't like improve the big O performance of it, which then will catch up eventually. Yeah, I think that's good.
There's also I remember that Joe Pi 91 was working on a faster Nix evaluator with like JavaScript stuff. So I think that there might in the future be a faster implementation of Nix. So we should focus on architectural improvements more.
Yeah, get this.
So we started this call as taking module systems as a must-have feature, which we definitely didn't left off last meeting this way. And yeah, so like I just want to point out that like whole module system is not necessary. Like just type checking would be absolutely awesome. And may I suggest just ignoring everything from Nix side for time being until, I don't know, until Nixpkgs architecture team is out of tasks.
Yeah, I think I'm not actually even sure if we need to talk about the module system as in for packages. It's also just in general kind of a problem of NixOS that the module system is slow. But yeah,
not just being Nix evaluation being really slow, and also the fact that you have to evaluate all of bloody Nix packages.
If I might make a suggestion, it sounds like we might be getting, or it sounds like part of the issue here might be that we got sidetracked from the last meeting. So maybe we could start off, or maybe we could end meetings by creating a summary that gets copied into the meeting notes for the next meeting, and then we can like go over that at the beginning of the meeting.
I like that idea. Right, to kind of keep the flow of the meetings a bit more continuous.
Actually, how about having an agenda?
Yeah, right. For now, the agenda has been mostly just discussion.
How you guys doing? Anyone done anything interesting? But having an actual agenda might actually help.
Yes. Well, I guess mentioning that, I'm gonna take a quick look at the previous meetings notes, and I think we mainly just, well, let me look at it first. We have discussed using the module system for package evaluations in the past meeting as well, but also just about phases improvements in general, and the builder replacing all the custom language builders with just a single one with a better phases abstraction. But yeah, regarding the better phases abstraction, I think that was mainly just someone needs to develop that, which hasn't really happened yet. So we don't have any progress there. And the other is, right, I mean, the other is the using the module system for packages. And right, Kittis, by the way, I'm not sure, am I pronouncing your nickname correctly?
Well, it's not my nickname, it's my name, but it's Kittis.
Kittis. All right.
If I may, what exactly do you mean when you say using the module system for packages?
So there's a very brief sample of what Kittis mentioned last time. It's to essentially have like a build derivation, and then within there you kind of import the modules that you need. So for example, if you need to build a Rust package, you import a Rust module for that specific package. So the kind of module level is only at this individual packages, and that kind of gets around the performance problem a little bit by not requiring every module to be imported. So it's really just, I need the Rust module, I need the Perl module, and so on.
What Infistil is describing is composability from module system part instead of using hooks.
Yeah, and I think that, oh yeah, let's let David speak.
I think one important reason why we started discussing the module system for packages is because right now we have these two different worlds of how things can be configured. We have the NixOS options, and then for packages we don't have that. We have override and override address and all these different kinds of things which are kind of complicated to use. I think that would be that would be an important point. So to unify the approach of how things get configured across Nix packages.
Right, and I feel like we probably maybe the best way is to kind of try to have the meet in the middle, because I feel like underneath kind of the same problem is being solved. We want things to be overridable, to be composable, to be easy to use and have good error messages, things like that. Right, the module system does some of that. There's some problems with it, and the overrides kind of does that, but there's problems with it. Yeah, maybe maybe going that route does sound pretty good. So I guess we can go kind of parallel on that and try. Right, and that's what Gitis has like a explored using the module system for all packages together. And I think David, you with Dream2Nix, you're kind of I think I saw a PR for using the module system for some part of Dream2Nix to configure packages, right?
Not yet for configuring packages, but as the main interface for the whole Dream2Nix framework, you would pass a module right now. So I'm slowly refactoring, but the goal is to also use the Nixos module system to configure builds, like all the build flags, everything that's passed to MK derivation in the end. That should be done with the Nixos module system, with type checking and so on. But I'm not there yet, and I'm also like I'm very curious about what's happening right now, because I see Robert was working on the mini module system and all these kind of things. So I think it's still worth for me to observe what's happening here before I continue this, because I might waste my time.
Yeah, sounds great. I'd love to see as many prototypes and experiences we can about this to find out all the ways. And I mean, I think the module system has proven itself to be very good for NixOS, but then we have the performance problem, and there's some other problems. And does it work for packages? Yeah, I think the Dream2Nix work is really interesting for this now. And also, I do Gitis prototype for this as well. All right, but yeah, does anybody have any other thoughts about this?
I feel like we discussed quite a bit past several meetings. Shall we all try to, I don't know, present something next meeting? I guess it's not mandatory. Just give your short of sorts for some part of all this discussion. At least I think it would be nice.
I think that you and David could like talk a bit about how the module system is used for configuring packages, or configuring Dream2Nix, and in which ways that works.
Well, sure. I've got different idea in mind what I could do in the meanwhile, but sure, I could like talk about it as well.
But yeah, what was the idea? Like to present just in general something about how packages could be configured, or?
I would like to either try to work on John Erickson's, technically not his PR, but the whole PR that splits up GCC, which would be super useful, but I feel like it's out of my league. If someone else could pick it up, that would be absolutely amazing, since John does not seem to be having much time for all this. But another thing I was thinking of is writing, just refactoring for starters, setup thingy, to use something like oil or some language that compiles to bash. So that would be a start of understanding the logic that's there. And yeah, and this would be a presentation basically of how we could achieve gradual migration.
Yeah, we I think like about 2 meetings ago, we kind of put the topic about replacing Bash a bit to rest and thought it might be better to work on other things instead. But if you do want to look into that, I think, and give like a short
from my point of
presentation
view,
on
this
that.
is like one of the main things that is holding us back. So yeah, it's not like the module
think-
system. It's not anything else. That's like the whole logic
What,
in
replacing
that
Bash?
setup thingy. Well, it's Bash and logic being unclear. It's like a mix of both of these two. Like we have all these like weird indexes dependency management, which till this day I can't wrap my head around. And yeah,
Right. Yeah, I feel like to some degree
we
it should be possible to kind of implement a good abstraction on top of Bash and just use Bash for the implementation. Even if the implementation might be pretty ugly, we can still have a nice Nix abstraction on top of that, which doesn't need to expose any Bash directly.
So just to be clear, I don't care how ugly it is. I need it to be readable and understandable. So
Good
we
luck
could
with
properly deal with it.
I am a Bash fanboy, and my first reaction to that is good luck with that. You have to be very familiar with complicated Bash for it to become intuitive. And I've been writing it for 20 years.
Yeah, so the idea is to replace it with something else. So I got an example which replaces it with Ruby, and I think it would be cool to, if I were to work on some gradual replacement example using Oil Shell or one of the languages that compile to Bash.
We are dangerously close to just devolving right back into language bike shedding.
That's fair.
Yeah. So I think if you wanna do a presentation on that, I'd love that. Like if you just want to work on this and have motivation to do that and can present go into that, that's great. I think most people think that Oil Shell is a bit too young. It's kind of hard to use other languages because people aren't familiar with them as much as Bash. We discussed this a whole bunch like a couple meetings ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still something we can discuss, I think.
I went over a couple of like languages that compile to Bash. That's an option too, since we could just compile it over and just commit it in.
That's true, yeah. David?
I think there could also be another approach where maybe if we moved more of the language and more of the things that are happening during build time right now in Bash to the potential module system, if we find a suitable one, and if we have a clean abstraction of what a phase is, so that in the end the phase is just a process and it can be in any language and it has a certain interface, then all the options are set with Nix. I maybe don't have to, whenever I want to extend the build in any way, I can just choose whatever language I want to choose. Kind of, there's no one fixed language where all the complicated stuff happens in, and I have to use exactly that language. Maybe different phases, which solve different problems. Maybe it would be best if they were written in different languages. And if I want to add something, I can pick whatever language I want to.
I find it difficult to agree with this statement, but that's just me.
On one hand, we
let's
just
let
use...
Alex speak, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, you're muted? In some other way, apparently. Oh, we can hear you now, I think.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it was on my built-in microphone. Yeah, for running build phases, like using separate languages, are you talking about like running them through separate interpreters, or like within Bash, like invoking a sub, like a sub process? I think, yeah, one of the ones I had been doing was like chaining derivations with different interpreters, like through each other, in the same, like as you would normally do, kind of like a configure phase, build phase, not an install phase, I suppose, but like using them like pipes almost, and had some success with that. but yeah, I think in terms of like using more languages, like I think probably the easiest one is like just invoking from your, standard ENB as a sub process.
Alex, do you have an example of that by any chance?
Yeah, I can share some of that.
Yeah, that would be nice. So we talked about phases quite a bit. What are our quote-unquote requirements for phases?
I think
What are the problems with phases?
quickly, Ash also wanted to say something.
Yeah, I was under the impression that the language selection discussion was deemed out of scope for now.
I think so. I thought so too. Yeah. Probably best to go back to the meeting notes bit. I think most people agreed that it doesn't matter that much, because I think most end users don't need to actually write Bash or interact with it. Like you can configure packages with just Nix.
I propose that we can create like another matrix channel or something to discuss that specific thing if people want to debate about it more, but like we should move on from the language stuff.
I think it could do with some more structured discussion. It is going to be a very long and very in-depth discussion, no matter how we try to spin it. And it's going to continue coming up. So maybe discourse.
We could quite easily simplify this discussion if we decide of one point. Are we trying to perform a gradual change, or are we just ripping the Band-Aid off? If we're ripping the Band-Aid off, Ruby is an option and a bunch of other languages technically. If not, then we're basically stuck with shell-ish, basically Bash compatible stuff. Yeah. So
I think it has to be a gradual change, just because of Nixpkgs, like how it's used right now.
So yeah, this slims the discussion down quite a lot, I'd say.
Well,
I got an idea. Can we have anonymous vote between team members?
Yeah, at least for now it's just me and Robert here of the official team. But yeah, Robert, we also agree that it should be a gradual change, or at least one that we can't require people to immediately learn another language. It has to be a very 5-year, 10-year change for people to learn.
I would like to clarify, it's probably less about learning than about rewriting the setup hooks and stuff.
Could we just move the whole thing to somewhere else and move on?
Robert wanted to speak.
Yeah, I misused the button actually. I wanted to agree.
I see. Well,
Jitsi moment. Change. I think the point of this group is to make an actual change happen, and I think there's also large risk of fragmentation that we want to avoid.
Yeah, John?
Yeah, unfortunately I couldn't hear Robert too well, but I think, right, like, rather than discussing like angles or even specific steps, I think it'd be really good to be on the same page of what does a progression of achievable reforms in Nixpkgs look like? What is the process we're going for? And kind of work down tactically. Like, I mean, I can get distracted with pie in the sky things all day, but when it gets down to brass tacks, we definitely can't change the language ever, as people say. Even introducing a second wholly different standard would probably be somewhat controversial. We have to be very precise on what the like mechanism of chain is, and where we're actually going with that. I don't think even matters, because it won't even be clear until like a few months of like merging really solid reform PRs where the destination is. On the other hand, if we always talk about what we like to do and we never actually make any PRs, we're never going to get anywhere. So, yeah, we need that roadmap in the road sense, not in the destination sense.
Both, actually. It's fairly important to keep the actual goals in mind here while we try to figure out how to get there.
And considering how Nixpkgs is used, that there's a lot of third-party uses, we really need to have a very long deprecation period for things. We can't break third-party code all over the place. And there's like people that only upgrade NixOS every like 5 years or something. Yeah.
Probably with this change, that's the least of our worries. Anyways, may I suggest like a bit of homework for the team, reaching consensus on the upgrade path? Is it like ripping the band-aid off or not? And I noted
Could you
previously,
clarify that in perhaps in like the message, like clearly what you mean by ripping the band-aid off and what you mean by gradual?
Gradual is basically something Bash compatible. Band-aid off is something like Ruby. Like, how are we approaching this whole upgrade process? Either we will have like make derivation and stuff for years to come, like just for backwards compatibility. Yeah, and I mentioned it previously, but it would be really nice to get some work done on GCC and GPR. This would really improve basically everything that we're talking about, simplify things. I'm not sure if anyone is willing to work on it or just interested. It's quite a complex issue. I don't know.
Is it GCC and GPR?
Yeah, John, could you find it? Actually, it's probably in our DMs.
And I'm also happy to discuss why I've been telling Git that I think these things are important first steps that move some pretty massive boulders out of the way. Oh, I'll put in the channel, not just in the ephemeral channel.
Anyway, so idea, if we get this completed and merged, this simplifies our architecture quite a bit, or at least gives us options to do so. And yeah, I guess the main issue is that John neither has time nor is motivated to work on it, and I'm not smart enough.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I know a lot about this either. We do have to find the right people. I do have time sometime, but maybe not the experience needed.
Well, if people really have the time, it's easier for me to like find the time pairing than like be thrashed about multitasking things on my own. I've been doing a Google Summer of Code thing this summer, of course, and other sort of mentoring things outside the Nix community, and I think that's been going very well, and it feels good to sort of spread the arcane knowledge, I like like no one started this sort of work knowing anything. Certainly I would describe myself that way. So like if people have the time and the motivation and think think this stuff can be important, the rest will be figured out. I'm totally confident.
Also, I got an idea for another homework, which would be directed at John Erickson, I guess, at least mostly. It would be really nice to have some sort of definition or summary how Geeks does its own thing and take it as a golden example. I'm aware that they do a lot of things right since they knew how to, yeah, they basically saw our failures. And yeah, it would be real nice to just have a summary of sorts. Not
So I
sure.
guess this is about the bootstrapping. We're kind
It's
of
Bootstrap, it's dependency finding. They have like this rules engine of sorts.
Yeah.
Maybe John could
I-
elaborate more.
I do feel like this is probably kind of, we're trying to move to the direction of a very generic derivation builder where C would only be like C support and C++ support would only be like a plugin of sorts or import away. So this wouldn't be part of the core functionality.
It's not necessarily involving that. It's overall just to know what's our goal. Basically, it's to become as good as geeks or better. Basically, I just think it would be useful.
Yeah, like
if it's- Go
to
ahead.
make it connect and maybe connect to what Sylvan is saying. Right now, dependencies are complex because we try to do a bunch of language-specific things with language agnostic notions of dependencies. And furthermore, compilers in particular have extra complex dependencies, and that complexity then infects all the generic mechanisms. Like as we were talking about with various target depths, target packages, stuff like that. So if we want to be really modular, there's a chance to be like, well, maybe we shouldn't just have an all singing, all dancing notion of dependency. And also we should redo these compiler builds so that they're less weird. Both of those are huge opportunities to then like basically cut the requirements of any new stuff way down so it becomes much more tractable to make simpler abstractions that actually work well. I hope that made some sense.
That sounded pretty good to me. Yeah. Yeah, and I guess so. So I guess this also goes into like the, I don't know, for C compilers, the target platform, for example, is kind of an important aspect, which complicates a lot of things. I guess that's also part of what could be simplified.
That's what the PR is about, no?
Oh, the link to PR. I haven't taken a close look at that.
Yeah, it's a separated runtime libraries. So runtime libraries, that's the target stuff.
Yeah, but yeah, that sounds good. I made a little planning section at the bottom of the meeting notes to kind of try to write down kind of future steps. Maybe it should be called future steps. So we have, I wrote down helping John Erickson with the PR there. We have Gitis is adding reach consensus on upgrade approach to the
just the
language
whole
thing.
ripping Band-Aid off.
For the M4 change, I just was looking at that PR. For the M4 changes, and this was actually like one that we were talking about, like on like the AutoConf message list, was like for the by default auto regenerating, like all the auto comp stuff, I would be interested to see how this behaves with that many changes, because we get like we've been running into a lot like when people are like going in and like modifying and regenerating like off of source tarballs, we've gotten like so many headaches with like the incompatibilities or just like common symbol names like clashing with each other. Or yeah, keep me in the loop on how these changes to the compiler go with the M4 stuff.
Are you relating this to a PR or?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was reading the GCC with separate runtime, and the overrides that they did to GCC's M4. Yeah, and I think in this case they were just editing the, I guess like ones that were specific, like local ones. I think, but what we've been seeing a lot of is like distros like doing like modifying at the top level though, like for auto comp altogether, and like doing and not even that. I think it's just like by default like auto regenerating the M4 scripts and like wiping out the ones that were like in the source tarballs. Been running into a lot of headaches, but yeah, I just anytime I see a patch for any of the core stuff with like the M4 script, I'm like, oh no, please.
Yeah. I guess that might also be something to address then. And right, I think I've also heard something about just reducing the number of GCC patches that are needed.
Yeah, and I think I didn't. Yeah, that's maybe a better way to put it. I do keep. I get like tagged on all like the libtool ones, and so there's a lot of like, I do see a lot of changes like affecting the core autocomp like macros and stuff, where there's like the part of my brain that's like gets really spooked by that, just like because it goes awry so quickly.
Yeah. For the meeting path in general, we have like 4 minutes left. I feel like we're at a relatively good closing point. But if someone has something, we missed something, wants to have something noted down or talked about, or quick feedback on something.
This question is mostly directed at John, but I wrote down the two main issues from my point of view. Do you have anything else to add? Or yeah, I feel like stuff like language and module system overrides.
Where? Sorry, I'm in the channel.
I wrote it to the document.
Sorry, I haven't seen the documents today. Let me catch up on that ASAP.
I'm sending it to Jitsi stream chat.
Chris?
I'd just like to reiterate my request to move all conversation regarding replacing Bash to a more structured long-term conversation.
Yeah, I agree. That's the second point Gitas wrote down there. I do agree that's a good point.
Just to be clear, like I don't care what replaces it. I just care about the logic. Like it can be Perl for all I care. We just need to understand it for starters because that's one of our main blockers. At least that's how I see it. I don't know.
I do think the kind of compiling from another language to Bash inside the repository and committing that would be a way to not have bigger problems. But yeah, I think we really need to move this to another place. But I encourage you to like. Well, I think it would be fine to also discuss this in the architecture team channel. But I encourage you to also create a channel for this. I think that would be great, and invite all the people that have interest in this, or a discourse thread. That would also be great. Would that be okay with you?
That
Otherwise,
works for
let's.
me. I expect that once we've had some time to go into the weeds with that, we can have shorter conversations during the calls.
So, like, from my point of view, we can't really even go into the weeds about it because, well, POC of sorts is needed and basically see what sticks. So, whoever.
I don't even understand why exactly you want to replace Bash, other than, I don't know, some people don't like Bash. So let's just write it all out.
All right. I thought I wrote it down, but sure.
Where did you write it down for record?
So the issue I'm having with Bash is our complexity of it. Basically, probably nobody in this call aside John Erickson understands how it works, and it's next to impossible to decipher. We need to figure out the algorithm. How are we supposed to handle cross-compiling and other functionalities that make derivation provides? And this is basically the base thing that we need to figure out for composability, for rewriting it to basically anything else, to extending it in any.
Can you maybe make a document writing down all these points? Then it's probably simpler for everybody to understand.
Yeah, because right now what's happening is you're telling me your concerns, and either I write them down myself, or this is going to get. I'm just going to forget about most of this in 10 minutes. I've got more stuff lined up now.
I think that this has been declared out of scope for right now, and we spent about 30 minutes on it today, so that shouldn't happen in the future, I think.
That's kind of what I want to avoid by just moving most of it somewhere else for the time being. We'll come back to it eventually, but I want to have most of the bike shedding out of the way by then.
Yeah, but if I may, sort of a compromise thing, the things we do in Bash today are terrible, but we could solve problems by doing less things in Bash just as well as we can solve them by doing those things in something different.
This is a great thing to suggest in the other domain where we're talking about this. But what I'm hearing expressed numerous times is that that's not right now, right here.
Well, I'm not saying change Bash. I'm saying do more things in Nix. Yeah. I'm saying we can solve all Git's concerns while using on-topic methods. And
we're out of time for the meeting anyway.
Yeah. I think great points raised by everybody there. But let's keep it to the hour for now. So thanks everybody for joining, and I'll stop the recording now. Feel free to discuss in the chat, and feel free to add some stuff to the meeting notes that we missed. All right, but then thanks everybody. See you next time.